ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I'm Mr. Warren Hayes. Thank you very much for joining me on another podcast adventure, talking about the wacky world of professional wrestling. We're recording this on December 27. Hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, wonderful first part of the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is you observe, you celebrate, or even if you don't, if all you observe is, listen, I want to be left alone and read books or play video games or whatever, write poetry, paint a portrait, go down and take long walks, whatever you do, I hope it's being nourishing for you, the mind and the soul for you. Hope it's being restful and mindful for you. That's what counts the most, whichever way you support or you go through the holidays. That's what's most important. As long as it's good for you, that's really what's critical. But in the meantime, I hope everything is like that. I want to thank you for watching here on youtube.com/slash Mr. Warren Hayes. If that's what you're doing right now, but leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That way you will never miss another Mr. Warren Hayes show ever again. Plus, on top of it all, you'll also never miss one of my AEW Dynamite reviews, which I do every Thursday as well, on the day after the Dynamite, where we go in deep on the previous evening's episode. I also do that on the podcast side as well, because yes, Mr. Warren Hayes Show is available as audio feeds on your favorite podcast application. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and a 5-star rating on Spotify. And that would help out a great deal. And again, if you follow me there, you'll get all of the extra content as well. So, including the Dynamite review, which happens every Thursday. So that's fantastic. Join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord as well. The link is in the description if you want to talk with other fans who are just cuckoo crazy about pro wrestling. It's a good place to come and hang out. Our nice, fun, awesome little community is really, really great. And yeah, well, listen, this is where we're at right now. We're closing out the year. It's the last Mr. Warren Hayes show of 2022. So we are going to be previewing, I should say, Wrestle Kingdom 17, which happens in about a week. We also have a preview of Stardom Dream Queendom 2, which is happening on December 29. I'm having that preview done with Kristen Ashley, PWI Pro Wrestling Illustrated contributor, and just so happens to be the first lady of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show as well. She'll be joining us to break down that entire card. We're talking about Cody Rhodes and house shows as well. But there's also another auspicious occasion here tonight that we're going to get into right now. Thank you very much for listening. Let's get to it. It's been let me break this down for a second. A full calendar year ago, close to it, I decided that I was going to make a substantial resolution for myself, a resolution that I promised to myself that I was going to hold for the entire year, and I have held this resolution for a full year. I said I was going to say one nice thing per week about Bill Goldberg. And folks, guys, gals, non-binary pals, I am happy to report that tonight is the final nice thing that I have to say about Bill Goldberg. And it's been a journey. This is it. We have hit the objective. And I am terribly proud of myself. I am terribly proud of myself. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the final nice thing I have to say about Bill Goldberg.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
It just so happens, by the way, that December 27th, the day that we're recording the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast, it just so happens it is Bill Goldberg's birthday today. So on that note, I would like to sing a little happy birthday tune for Bill Goldberg. Here we go. Goldberg, happy birthday, William Goldberg. Happy birthday, you ended Bret Hart's career. Yes, you did. And that was the 50-second thing I had nice to think I had to say about Goldberg.
MrWarrenHayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
No, we're not doing another year. I'm going to tell you. Look, frankly, it was fun at first. then it turns into this thing where I'm like, no, not again. I have to do this again this week. But I'm very proud of myself. Commitment. Listen, this is what I'm trying to teach you, children. Sticking to one's guns, commitment. It is crucial. And when you stick through it, you are able to come out of it, as a better person. You've grown, you've learned things about yourself in the meantime, right? And as we move on from this, no more nice things about Bill Goldberg. It's a free-for-all moving forward now. I do want to thank my oldest son once again, who composed the theme to the Mr. MrWarrenHayes show, 52 Nice Things About Bill Goldberg theme. And he did that out of the goodness of his heart and because he did want to score Christmas presents this year. And he did it for me, and I appreciate it a great deal. Achievement unlocked. Thank you all very much. I'm just going to make sure everything is properly muted here because I don't want to. Let's go right ahead then. Let's hit it. We're going to the weekly wrestling inspection. I mean, it's not as much an inspection this week as, the meat of what we're talking about tonight is going to be previews. Like I said, we're going to be previewing Wrestle Kingdom 17 a little later on in the show. We're going to talk about Cody Rhodes. There's a couple of things on the agenda that I may or may not be able to get to. I do want to talk about Cody, but to kick things off tonight, to get things off on a roaring start, I want to preview STARDOM Dream Queendom 2, and that is a STARDOM's last big show of the year, which is going to be happening December 29th, so just in 2 days, at Sumo Hall. It has another name, but it will always be Sumo Hall in the hearts and minds of wrestling fans everywhere. And to do that tonight, since I am not a rabid viewer of STARDOM, I will keep up. I will watch the big shows. And those are always exciting. But to properly break this down, I'm going to be joined via the magic of internet audio by PWI contributor and the first lady of the Mr. MrWarrenHayes show, Kristen Ashley. Hello, Kristen. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Well, I am fine. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk about STARDOM.
Why wouldn't we be excited to talk about STARDOM? Because STARDOM had an exciting year this year in 2022, right? It's been a fantastic year for the company. More and more awareness being created around it. You feel like there's more interest in Joshi than at any given time in history. Am I mistaken here, Kristen? Was 2022 a pretty good year for STARDOM and Joshi in general?
Yeah, well, I think the lessening of COVID restrictions had a lot to do with that. Like, there's definitely STARDOM and Joshi presence like 3-4 years ago, but then COVID hit and everything shut down. So, yeah, it's been a fantastic year. Lots of new eyes on the product.
Including, of course, Shuri being at the top of the hill of the PWI Women's 150, which was something that you and I were very, very proud of. That
Yes.
we were very happy about. And this is the last show of the year that they are doing on the 29th. Dream. I don't know why I always stutter. Dream Queendom 2. It's the second one they do. you get the feeling, right, that they want to sort of make this their Wrestle Kingdom, right? Now that Bushiroad's in control, they kind of want to make this like their big annual show, right?
Yeah, well, maybe it's the wrestling fan in me, but I like the pillar pay-per-view. So, I mean, I have no idea if they will, but probably. I think if this is the second one, it'll probably be a staple for sure.
That's what I'm pretty sure. You know, we'll see how things are, how things go moving forward. But you know, you feel like they're putting a lot of importance on this one. But let's dive right in. Let's just go straight ahead. Start talking about the matches. We'll go in reverse order if you don't mind, if that's okay with you. And maybe even you know, we'll jump right into the full show here, starting with the Cosmic Angels versus Donna Del Mondo. The Cosmic Angels duo of Unagi Sayaka and Mina Shirakawa, who I really like. Mm-hmm. And on Donna Del Mondo's side, we've got Mei Sakurai and Tekla, who is one of your personal favorites. Yes. Any thoughts on this match, Kristen?
Yeah, so I mean, this is really honestly just like a exhibition match. It's, you know, the first in line, so it's just sort of warm up the crowd. What's important here is that Unagi and Mina are pairing again together for the first time since the summer. Both have been away. Mina had an injury. I think it was a pretty bad neck injury, I want to say. And Unagi has been on the indie scene. So that's kind of the pair you want to look at. Mina's health is very up in the air. She showed up at press conferences not looking the greatest. So that team, although they're back, is not very strong and standing. The other part of it is that there's a previous feud with Mina and Tekla over the SWA title. So that'll be a good matchup too. But I honestly think this match will just be a good old-fashioned, you know, exhibition match. It'll just be a fun time.
It'll be good. I think there's a lot of folks who are excited that Unagi and Mina are back together. I think there's a lot of excitement around that. If you had a prediction here to go with, who do you think is going to win this opener?
I mean, my gut feeling is Donna Del Mondo. DDM is very strong. They are a cohesive group now that Shuri left. So I have a feeling they're going to pull this one out for sure. You
think they might give it to Unagi and Mina because, you know, coming back from injury and all of that? Do you think there's a possibility?
I mean, maybe. It would be a nice surprise. I mean, it would be sort of like a welcome back. But I don't know, man. Mina is looking pretty rough. So we'll have to see, I think.
Hopefully she's just, you know, selling for the sake of selling and getting us, you know, worried about what's going on. Yes. Next, we have a trios match. We got stars versus stars going after each other. Mayu, Momokogo, and Hanan versus Hazuki, Koguma, and Saya Ida. Interestingly enough, this is I think this is serving to be a preview of the Triangle Derby tournament that they are going to be holding in January. This is again something new that Stardom is doing. They're having a round robin trios tournament, so kind of not unlike what they do with the 5-star Grand Prix and and for the tag team titles. Now they're doing it with trios as well, so that's really exciting. So I think this is because both of these teams are in the Triangle tournament, the Triangle Derby. Excuse me. I kind of like that. The Triangle Derby. I kind of like that. Any thoughts on this, Kristen?
Yeah. Well, it's obviously interesting when teammates go against each other. Although there's so many members and stars that it's like, how can you call them teammates? I mean, probably. The Triangle Derby is going to be really interesting. Excuse me. It makes total sense that they have a trios tournament. I don't know why they didn't think about that before, especially since they have a tag league. You know, Mayu and Momo are actually very interesting pairings. So they worked together, they tagged together in tag league. But Momo did not live up to Mayu's expectations. She did not stand to the test of Mayu's time. So this really is like Momo's second chance to prove to Mayu that she's not the weakest link. So that'll be an interesting. Hanan's got it. She's good. But the other two will be interesting to see how they work together. And then, of course, Hazuki and Koguma are already an incredible duo. It's going to be hard to go against Hazuki, Koguma, and Saya. It's going to be a rough one.
Do you got to pick here? Or is it one of these things where, they're all stars people and you just wish everyone has a good time?
I mean, I hope Momo can get her second chance and come back for Mayu. But at the same time, like I said, Hazuki and Koguma, man, they came back just flags, flying. They're already a really good tag team. So then you add in Saya, and I don't know. I honestly think Hazuki, Koguma, and Saya are going to be the ones to win for sure.
All right, moving on. Next match we have here is another trios match to determine the number one contender for the Goddess of Stardom Championship, which is the trios title. So we have excuse me. Pardon me, I'm confused. It's a three-way tag team match, not a trios match. Warren, get your notes together. Three-way tag team match to determine the number one contender for the Goddess of Stardom Championship, which is the tag team titles. The New Eras, which is Mirai and Surei. I know that's her last name, and then I think it's Ami Surei. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her first name. Versus,
I think that's right. I'm not sure.
I'm not 100% sure either. Versus Maika and Himeka, and BMI 2000, which is Natsuko Tora and Ruaka. This match has Hoss Fight written all over it, Kristen.
Yes. Yeah, this is going to be one of those really straightforward physical fights. All the teams are very well established. They've already been fighting with each other. I don't suspect this will be a very long one. I think it's just going to be incredibly hard-hitting.
Who do you got? Who should be the number one contenders here? Picking this one up.
And I mean, if I had to go with my heart, it would be Meika and Himeka. Meika is always out to kill somebody. That's just the goal every time she steps in the ring. And Himeka towers over everyone. She's so tall. And she's got that leg reach, and it's just really hard to beat those two. They have worked together, I want to say, since the beginning. They've just been a pair, and so I find it really hard for anyone to compete with that.
This is the kind of match where, everyone who has like these preconceived notions about Joshi, right? Where it's all these, these little, girls dressed up like dolls, and who run around and jumping off the ropes and doing spinny moves on each other. This is the one that I direct them to be like, oh, sure, you get that, but check this out, right? Because, Maika and Himeka, they're straight up my alley. All of these women are really, when it comes to, not that I don't like the others, but when it comes to just personal preferences, things, I love it when wrestlers wail on each other, right? You know this.
Right.
You know this.
Yes.
So just having like this one is just going to be, like I said, a Hoss fight. We're just going to have people beating up on each other. It's going to be great. I'm excited for this one. And I'm with you. I think Maika and Himeka are probably going to pick up the win here. Now here's an interesting match, right? We've got Utami Hayashishita versus Kairi Hojo, Kairi Sane, whatever, in a singles match. Now, this is not for the IWGP Women's title. This has been clarified. It's the title is not involved in this situation. But there's another stipulation. Do you want to break it down for us?
So, simply put, the loser of this match will have to start all over as far as presentation goes. So, they will have to wrestle in their debut costume. So the one they came in with no gowns, so no big robe, and no special ring entrance. So they can't come in what they call as appealing to the crowd. So they can't come in with any sort of act or dance moves or whatever you want to call it. So they have to start from scratch.
It's crazy. Interesting. It's like for some of us, some of the people listening who are more familiar with New Japan, this would be the equivalent of, let's say, having Okada and Tanahashi in a match, and the loser has to go back to being a young lion with the black little booties and the black shorts and just like run into the ring, and that's it. Like it's a wild stip, Kristen.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because both of these women are so well established. Kairi is one of the three pillars. So to think of and then you have to think back okay, this would be back when Kyrie debuted, so pretty much the start of Stardom. So you have to go all the way back and think about what did she wear back then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see what happens with their music because that's interesting as well. I mean, my thought is we'll get to it that Kyrie's not going to lose this, but if she did, I mean, essentially she would lose this pirate new voyage she's got going on. So. I mean, Utami has a pretty, if I remember, a pretty basic entrance, but she has the gown. She has this very ominous presence with her entrance. So I'm really excited. First off, just to see the match, but also to see what happens when one of them loses.
Because that's obviously going to be like that's a deal. That's a deal here. But like Utami she's the leader of Queen's Quest right now. Am I right?
Yes, I think so.
I believe, isn't she?
I can't remember.
I
believe so.
I'm pretty sure like right now she's the leader of Queen's Quest. I think it's interesting to think of Utami being in a position where she goes back to rookie level, right? Essentially. Mm-hmm. But she's still the boss. Like, or how does that work within their group dynamic, right? Like, Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, what's also interesting in all this is a first-time singles matchup. They've only competed against each other once before in a tag team match back in May. So there's all sorts of interesting angles to this whole thing. Utami challenged Kyrie after she won the IWGP title, which so did Tom. That was a funny moment. And in both cases, Kyrie said, no, you're not deserving. So in a funny way, if Kyrie did lose, she'd have to go back to the basics. And then Utami could be like, well, now what? Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting. Also, you have to remember that Kyrie then does have a very big match coming up. At Wrestle Kingdom. So... And that's another down below and another match. It's something you got to remember with Tom. So these are things you have to think about in the future. How much work does she want to put in against Utami, who could kill you with her legs? How much do you want to put into that? Obviously, she doesn't want to go back to the beginnings, but she wants to save her strength for Wrestle Kingdom.
Do you have a pick here?
My pick is Kyrie. These special matches only have 15 minutes for a time limit. So it tends to be very fast-paced, and Kyrie is more fast-paced than Utami, in my opinion. But Utami's going to put her through the ringer. I mean, I think Utami's going to start from the beginning, but Utami's going to beat the living you-know-what out of her, for sure.
Oh, you can curse on the MrWarrenHayes show. You know this.
Okay. You living shit out of her.
There you go. Thank you. Now it feels comfortable. Not even feels like we're having a regular conversation on top of that.
All that.
But I kind of feel like the finish here is a little telegraphed because of the Wrestle Kingdom show, because I don't think it makes sense for Kyrie to lose before arguably one of the biggest matches to ever happen, right? Yeah. On TV. So that's one thing. And I said on TV in New Japan is what I meant to say. So that's a big one. And you know what, I know there's been some talk about, okay, well, what should we do next, in regards to, for Utami, right? Like, what's the next thing for her to do? Maybe a little, this, I mean, would you call it a refresh or a repackaging,
Yeah, just a redirection.
A redirection, not unlike when Julia got her hair shaved, right? No, but I mean, that created a whole other direction for her.
Julia's hair changes, I feel like, every other week. I mean, she's got those iconic, she just cycles through looks. But two, if you think about it, Kyrie's about to show up at Wrestle Kingdom in one of the biggest matches of her entire life, I would think she would say. Would it be interesting to have her lose here, and then she has to start from the beginning, but maybe she comes in with a different look?
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting.
I mean, I'm not sure how the stipulation works. It's the very first time that I've personally seen it, so I mean, I think Utami loses here, but I think you're right. I think Utami's so talented that she doesn't deserve to be in mid card. I think she needs to start moving up more again.
Then we have the high speed championship on the line. Champion Izumi is going to be taking on Hikari Shimizu for the title. I love me some high speed. It's one of the highlights of Stardom. Tell me about this match, Kristen.
So Hikari is from Colors, so she is a Stardom outsider. She challenged Izumi to a series of speed challenges at a press conference. The best way I can describe it. It has a lot of confidence. I mean, she's coming in going, show me your stuff. Hikari recently spent time in Mexico, which in the end could be a deciding factor. But, Hazumi has ruled the high-speed division.
I feel she's held the title forever at this point. Like, she's had it, easily for over a year, right?
Yeah, if she wins this, it would give her the all-time record for overall defenses.
Okay.
And it would tie the record for defenses in a single reign. So she's had it for a really long time. She's competed against a lot of people, and she's really no stranger to Stardom outsiders. She's fought against Mai Saruga, for instance. She's used to it. However, Hikari she's put in the work, and it's pretty hard to come back from luchadora country and not have some extra steps. So this is going to be a really fun match, as all high speed ones are.
I'm excited for it. Do you put the title on an outsider though, on a freelancer, or do you continue this dominant reign that Izumi has going?
I mean, I can't remember if this is Hikari's first match. I don't think it is in Stardom, but I think if you want to build a feud, you would have Izumi retain and then build a feud. As we'll see in the next match, it's not unheard of to have outsiders continuously come back in, especially freelancers, and have these feuds. So, Starlight Kid's got her own stuff going on. So if you want the top of the game with Izumi, you might have to grab somebody from the outside. So I could see Izumi retaining, but then this builds a feud.
Okay, I see. Because I think the Stardom office really likes Izumi. I think they've liked her for years because she started she started grabbing attention when she was still 17 or something like that. She was very, very young. When people were like, okay, this kid rules. So I think they really like her. I can definitely see her retaining, maybe handing the title to a new up and comer who is signed to Stardom and might, need the shine a little more. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Right. Yeah. True.
We'll see how that goes. Then we have a tag team match for the Artist of Stardom Championship. The Odeotai team of Starlight Kid, Momo, and Saki Kashima versus the Prominence team of Raiza Sarah, Suzu Suzuki, and Hiragi Kurumi. And the little caveat here is that this is a hardcore tag team match. This is going to be. Why don't you tell us about this one, Kristen?
I'm so excited. So Prominence left Ice Ribbon last December, and they left because Ice Ribbon refused their idea to create a sub-brand for hardcore wrestling. So already, this is right up Prominence. They're so excited for this.
They're good to go on this one, yeah.
Yeah, and they've been around since January. They started a feud with Julia, who had also left Ice Ribbon in a pretty controversial manner. So they've been around. This sets up, again, a preview match for the Triangle Derby. So it'll be a little, they're already in there, so it's a little peekaboo. And this is Prominence's first chance at a title match. It's coming in January. So this is their first time. Again, match is hardcore. It was chosen by Odeotai, and if you know Odeotai, they come to the ring already toting chairs, kendo sticks. They come out with stuff. They don't always use it, but it's sort of this idea of, intimidating their opponents. So they chose it, which is interesting because it's Prominence's specialty. This is what they live for. This is why they left Ice Ribbon, is because they want to beat people up. So this is going to be brutal. And besides like the main event, this is what I'm really excited about. Not just because I like hardcore wrestling and women can like hardcore wrestling, but because these two teams are just dirtbags. They're just dirtbags all around, and all they want to do is hurt each other. So I cannot wait to see this match. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people in here that you like, and I like as well. And I mean, we're both Starlight Kid fans, both of us. So this will be exciting. If you had to pick here, do Oedo Tai retain the Artist of Stardom Championship, or do Prominence get their due?
Honestly, Prominence has been around so much that they've circled through different feuds. So I actually predict Prominence is going to get it. I think it would be really funny if Stardom and Bushiroad, frankly, as sort of not a slight, but a message to Ice Ribbon, like, look, you don't want to do it. Someone will. So they're not going to create a sub-brand of it, but they're slowly getting harder with their matches, like for the Tom and Natsupoi steel cage match, right? So this is, I think the Prominence comes away with the win, especially since it's their first chance at a title match. I think it would send a really good message for them.
Sounds good to me. And we have a tag team match for the Goddess of Stardom Championship. We're just talking about Tom and Natsupoi. They're a team. Meltier. They're going to be defending their title against Nane Takahashi and Yu. Nane Takahashi, one of the founders of Stardom back in the day. She made a return. Yu's been around the block quite a bit. A lot of outsiders popping back into, well, Yu is an outsider coming into Stardom. Takahashi is coming home to a degree. Against Tom and Natsupoi here. Walk us through this one, Kristen.
Yeah, so Yu and Nana are tag lead winners. So they won the tag league. So then they get to challenge Meltier for their titles. So that's what's happening. Natsupoi and Tom, I mean, their reign has been fairly, I mean, it's only been like, half a year, but it's pretty legendary. Their pairing came with a lot of backstory and a lot of hard hits and a steel cage, a first-time steel cage match. So this pairing, I mean, they're one of the top tag teams on the Tag Team 100 list, right? They are dominant. Again, it's important to note that Tom's going to have a match against Kairi at Wrestle Kingdom. So how much does she really want? I mean, it's Tom, right? She's going to fight to the brutal death, but she's got to be careful if she wants to get this from Kairi. So again, I think this is going to be a pretty straightforward match. I think it's going to be Meltier coming away with it. I don't think they're going to give it up. But it's another exciting match because Tom and Natsupoi, it works so well together, and it's pretty hard not to love them.
See, I'm kind of thinking that, maybe the Neo Stardom Army is gonna swipe this one away. If only because Tom has the match in a week with Kairi. And maybe you don't want to jumble things with extra belts. But then again, New Japan has never been one to be very worried about, belts appearing on their TV. Hell, Chase Owens was on television with the new, the new Texas Heavyweight Championship or something like that. Like, they don't really care. It's like, what is this promotion? And the Rev Pro title, the Rev Pro British title, it shows up quite a bit. So I mean, I could be overthinking it, but there's two ways to see it. You could either have Tom and Natsupoi holding onto their titles. Tom looks strong going into the fight at Wrestle Kingdom, or they just don't, or they just disregard whatever's happening on New Japan because it's another thing and it doesn't affect their storytelling. Maybe. I don't know. But
yeah. I think it's important to note too that Stardom, they don't often give them two belts. I think Shuri was she was one of the few that I can't remember who else has done it, but Shuri held two for a little while and then she dropped one. So 3 even, I think. So they don't typically let them hold on to multiple titles, which means it would be interesting to see if Tam Nakano drops this tag team title, because if so, well.
Are you telling me Tam Nakano won't be able to be the head of the table? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you that if she drops it, I'm really interested to see what she does at Wrestle Kingdom then.
Sounds fair. Yeah,
she was very into that belt. I don't know if you remember her coming up after Kairi's match and just being like following it around and kissing the belt. So she might do whatever it takes.
And it was less disgusting of a kiss than the one MJF gave the AEW title that one week. Remember?
Yeah, that
was disgusting.
Yeah, it was a kiss of respect.
Yeah.
And admiration.
Not just like slobbering over it.
Yeah,
it was disgusting. Wonder of Stardom Championship, the second biggest title in the promotion. Saya Kamitani, the champ, is going to be taking on Haruka Umasaki. This is good shit. This is going to rule. And then...
Yeah, so another Stardom outsider, Haraka, yeah, is from Wrestling Diana.
How did I mispronounced it, did I?
Yeah, you did. That's okay.
I'm sorry.
I had to look it up, and it's Haraka. It's okay. From Wrestling Diana, and it's her first match at Stardom. So this is her first match.
Oh.
She challenged Saya. I'm gonna mess this up at a Takano Baba show. Takano Baba. I don't know what that is. So she challenged Saya at a separate show. Mm-hmm. Saya agreed, but only after Oedo Tai attacked her. And Haruka and Oedo Tai had like this friendship, not quite an ally, but sort of this friendship on the Stardom New Blood shows. So I'm not sure if you kept up with the New Blood, anyone, but they've had these multiple shows. And so it's sort of a way for them to introduce new people, and that's how they kind of did that. So this is Haruka's first match, and it's Saya Kamitani. So there's a lot of confusion with people who are watching this. Like, okay, you got this outsider, her first match, it's a title match, and it's at the semi-main event, right? So it can either be very telling, or it's just very confusing. Like, Saya Kamitani has held her belt for a while. This is, like, Saya's nobody to mess with. I mean, this is a huge deal for Haruka. So I'm not sure how this is going to go, if I'm being honest.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You're not able to really, like, let's say we do a desert island, and on that desert island you have to bring the winner of this match. You can only bring the winner.
Wow. That's an interesting way to put it. Out of just, okay, so out of like friendship, or I would say like what who do I want to hang out with the most on a desert island? I would say I understand, but it's just a weird
it's terrible. My analogy's bad.
Saya, I guess, just because it's Haruka's first match, I feel like that, I mean, again, it could be one of these things where, like, look, we're setting up feuds with outsiders. Wrestling Diana is a pretty great promotion. It's not incredibly well known, but they have a lot of great talent over there. A lot of awesome freelancers coming in and out. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't think Haruka's going to win. I think it would be incredibly shocking, but maybe that's what they want to go with. I don't know.
I mean, if she does it like it's historic, right? Like she, there's it's a first timer. And maybe they'd want to go with that. Like, if there's one thing, just before we get to the main event, if there's one thing that, we've been talking about quite a bit here, is that there's a lot of, outsiders to the promotion who are involved this year. Maybe there's a little undercurrent here. Maybe there's something that's about to happen, of course, storyline wise. And I don't want to necessarily say, NWO or Bullet Club, but maybe something to that effect, where we get to a point where, the freelancers are moving in, because we've been around. Stardom's been getting all the attention, but we've been doing our own stuff on the side. I don't know. Maybe there's something to all of this, is what I'm trying to say. And maybe Umasaki is the catalyst. Yeah.
Well, in so far three, I think, teams from outsiders are in the Triangle Derby. So, I mean, listen, it's not unheard of. It's certainly not unheard of for people to come in Stardom, but this is a pretty big banner year for that. Prominence came over and they just took over, and they started feuding with Julia, who honestly was at the top of the card then, and now still, right? So come in, they got this built-in feud, and that's the thing too, is you got people like Shuri, you got people like Julia, Tekla. These people are coming from outside of Stardom. They didn't start in Stardom. These are outsiders, right? Donna Del Mondo, right? Women of the world. So they're coming from outside where they already have feuds. These are feuds that are already built in, and they're coming. So, Haruka, she's one of them. She's going to be in the Triangle Derby. So I think she's not going anywhere. But I think this is really interesting because it's sort of like, not that Stardom, it's Bushiroad, right? And they've never like ignored other promotions, but it's sort of like if you went, WWE was letting Impact's title in the Royal Rumble, right? Like it's sort of this thing where like they're recognizing even the smallest of the Joshi promotions. So it's huge. This whole card is huge. That's sort of the one note I had overall was it's not unheard of, but it's at a banner year for outsiders.
And it's a huge card for a banner year, and you have a huge banner main event to cap it all off too. World of Stardom champion Sayuri defending against Giulia.
No, don't do that.
Versus Giulia.
We'll clip it.
Shuri versus Giulia. This one has been a long time simmering. Look, I'm going to let you talk about it because you love both of these women tremendously. Go right ahead. Floor is yours.
So Donna Del Mondo was and still is like my favorite faction. Now God's Eye, who's now led by Shuri, is the second, but they were always my favorite, and they were on the same team. Now back then, they were on the same faction, and they were clearly the top of the mountain, right? They were the breadwinners for Stardom. There was no doubt about it. And at some point, you have to go, okay, so how are you going to make this believable? How are you going to make two people in the same faction fight against each other in a believable way? So Shuri then, in a pretty unheard of thing, she breaks off and creates her own faction. Now that's not something to take lightly in Stardom. It doesn't happen a lot. You think of Io Shirai with Queen's Quest, right? This is not something that happens a ton. So she goes off and creates God's Eye, and then immediately they're enemies. Now they had their own feuds, right? Julia was almost immediately feuding with Prominence, but now, you got Julia who wins the Grand Prix, the 5-star Grand Prix. And now you've got this former teammates and friends. And now they're in this main event for the title. Shuri's win record is astounding when in singles matches that are non-tournament. She's got a really long, great record of it. Both of them obviously know each other really well, so that's going to be interesting to see. I don't know if anybody saw a crossover, but they were they were pulling each other's hair and slapping each other. The hatred in the ring is very much there. And they were able to find common ground to beat up Tom Lawler when he tried to... Yes, which is fine. Common ground for all of us. Yeah, we're all on that common ground. If Julia wins, she would become only the 4th woman to have held both the red, which is the World of Stardom, and the white, which is the Wonder of Stardom belt. The other 3 are the 3 pillars. Io Shirai, Kairi, and Mayu Iwatani. So she would be up on this really great mantle, and sort of this, which is weird because Shuri has got such an astounding record with Stardom that you think she would then be that next person. But no, it would be Julia if she wins. And honestly, I feel like it seems pretty clear that this is Julia's time. This is one of the most exciting feuds Julia has been a part of, in my opinion. And if anyone can snatch it from Shuri, it's going to be her. I'm going to tell you, you look at the graphic that they made, right, for this, specifically for this match, and it's, on the poster and whatnot. You look at these two women, like these two faces side by side. It just screams big match.
You just look at it, and it's like this is a big match. Even if you don't necessarily know them, even if you don't know their names or you've never seen them work, you see the graph, you're like, oh shit, okay, this feels important. This feels huge. We talked about it quite a bit when we were coming up with the list for the PWI Women's 150. One of the things that I focused on significantly for Shuri in our discussions and our debates was the fact that Stardom was having a banner year, right? We've been talking about it currently, by all estimates, but simply by live attendance, it's safe to call Stardom the second biggest promotion in Japan right now, just behind New Japan. It's not Pro Wrestling Noah. It's not All Japan. It's Stardom that is the second biggest wrestling promotion in Japan. So you have to turn, when that kind of stuff happens, you have to turn to who's your top person, who's your champion, who's been main eventing, right? Because typically people want to pay the tickets to see your top person, and Shuri was at the top there, and she's been carrying Stardom throughout a fantastic year. That's one of the reasons I thought it was critical that she be on this list, because she is the champion while there is a boom for Stardom. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think Julia has, someone in the chat mentioned it, has this international it factor, right? That makes her a star wherever you go. So I personally, like, when it boils down to it, when it's like, who do you think is going to win? Warren, I boil it down to what are Stardom's business aspirations, right? I think staying the course with Shuri for another few months is safe money. I think, she's proven to be a draw. She's proven to be someone that gets the proverbial asses into seats. Whereas Julia, if they do want to push a little more outside of Japan and want to get a foothold into the panacea that is the United States, well, Julia probably has a little more immediate appeal, if you know what I mean, right? So and I'm talking purely from a business standpoint, right? Because I think both of these ladies are fantastic pro wrestlers. I think whoever holds on to the title, whoever wins the title, is going to do it justice in their work, in their charisma, and how they present themselves. They're going to be world champions with this, right? But it like if I'm Rossi, if I'm Rossi and I have my little hat on, I'm like, I say, I'm gonna hold the course with Shuri for a few more months, because we're doing great gates, because we're doing great money with her. She's a draw. We're getting the attention. She's been, in North America, they're paying attention to her. I'm going to stay the course with her a few months. But I can absolutely see them deciding to go, no, let's pull the trigger. Like you said, it's Julia's time,
Yeah, well, it's important to note that this match is exactly a year after, exactly to the day, that Shuri won the belt from Utami at the first Dream Queendom. So I feel like, look, her star is not going to die just because she doesn't have the red belts. If I'm Stardom, I'm taking Shuri and I'm putting her in the IWGP that race. I think, what's the next thing for Shuri? Right? Like, she's destroyed Tom Lawler. She's destroyed Zack Sabre Jr. She destroys Tommy. She destroys Julia. She destroys everybody on the roster, right? She has this singles run that's insane. So what's the next step for her? I think it's Kairi. If I'm thinking, if you want your top physical star to go against someone who has world-renowned facial recognition, you go Shuri and Kairi. Because as much as I love Tom, it's not going to last. And as much as I love all of you, I do not want to see Sasha Banks in a lifelong feud with this. I want to see Sasha Banks everywhere is what I'm trying to get. So I think that if you want a really good pairing for that IWGP title, it's Shuri and Kairi. Let Shuri go from that red belt. Julia, frankly, could use it. Not that she's not great. I mean, she had a match last year with Konami, this exhibition just to say goodbye to Konami, and that was an insane match. But this is something that I think it's Julia's time. It's we've all been kind of waiting. Like, when is Julia going to get this belt? Because she's so good. Neither one of these women have ever had a bad match, in my opinion. They show up and they show out. and Julia is main event material. So, like you said, and also, I don't know if you saw the clip, everybody, Julia singing Last Christmas from Wham was like, put the belt on her. This is the champ we need. She knows the greatest Christmas song of all time.
Well, I mean, one of them, right? You know, one of the greatest.
No, greatest. It's the greatest. Anyway, so so my thought is, Julia. It seems clear to me now if they let Shuri keep it, I wouldn't be disappointed by any means. Shuri was my number one for the list and will remain number one. But I feel like this is Julia's time.
All right. Well, I have trouble disagreeing with that. It's like I really feel like it's going to boil down to a business decision. I really do. Like outside of anything else. Well, like most wrestling decisions should be, you know what I mean? But, you know, it's like I said, you know, well, look, I'm not going to reiterate everything, but, you know, either way, I think it's like this match is going to be fantastic. I'm so excited for it. I'm excited for this card. This looks absolutely great. And we have some really great stuff in the chat going on as well, where a lot of people seem to be excited as well for the show. You know, even pointing out, you know, that Julia does have that it factor outside of Japan, that she maybe has more of a following, you know, outside of Japan than we realize. Even some people, you know, throwing out there, you know, that you know, it should be Julia versus Jamie Hayter at Forbidden Door 2, which I would definitely not object to. And a great comment as well. Oh, did you want to comment on it? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, no. Well, let's see, right? Like, let's see what TK feels like. It's
sure. And as far as it would be it's a match that people would want to see.
Yeah,
I think is the
absolutely.
point here. And we also have a fun comment here as well. We're talking about how Dream Queendom and Wrestle Kingdom have a crazy group of outsiders spotlighted, and then Shuri Julia and Jay White Okada, top people in the companies proper with rich histories together in the main events. That's a great observation as well. We've really got these fantastic cards this year, full of again outsiders, people who orbit Japanese wrestling, clearly taking advantage of, you know, well, we're not locked down in the pandemic anymore. Let's open things up. Let's get things interesting again, which is, well, at least on New Japan side, it's been something that was very that was missing, that was lacking from the production. And, you know, clearly here in New Japan, not in New Japan, but in Stardom, you know, bringing all these people in as well, I think it makes for an exciting time.
Yeah, it's also, like you said, business-wise, very smart. If you want to appeal to all of the wrestling fans, you open your doors to all of the wrestling promotions. I mean, that's just how it works. Stardom and New Japan both are very good at telling very long history feuds. They're very good at it, because Stardom, they're all faction based, right? They have some of the best storytelling in wrestling, Stardom and New Japan. So it doesn't surprise me then that the main event is our history, right? This is Stardom's history, Shuri and Julia. While the other ones are like, hey, do you remember this person from Wrestling Diana? I mean, it's really good, and I think we've seen it obviously from New Japan. They have shared so many of their roster members to AEW, to other places, right? So it absolutely makes sense then that these cards are built around outsiders. It's like, look, we're opening our doors. We realize that there are benefits to working together. Again, it's not unheard of for either promotion, right? But it's in my you know, very limited point of view, at least, greater this year. So yeah, that's a good comment. Very good.
Well, Kristen, thank you very much for joining me tonight to break down the card. I appreciate it a great deal. You brought a wealth of knowledge that my cursory, not like my big show only knowledge of Stardom would have been, you know, sorely lacking. Let's put it that way. Well, did you want to let the people know where they can find you and what you've got upcoming in the pipeline?
Sure. So yeah, I'm not a rabid a fan of Stardom, but I love Stardom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I'm on TikTok and Instagram, but really most of my stuff gets put up on Twitter at Kristen Ashley. Yeah, I have some cool stuff for PWI coming. I have more columns. For women's wrestling, I have really cool blog posts coming up with some great interviews from even some of the big promotions. So there's a lot of really fun things. Look for the next issue of PWI. It's going to be super fun. I'm really excited to share it. So
that's going to be a good one. Well, Kristen, thank you very much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me. Sorry, everybody, you had to listen to me for 45 minutes, but there you are.
No apologies to be had. This was great. This was fantastic. Thank you again.
Thanks.
I want to chit chat a little bit about Cody Rhodes, if you don't mind. If you're down with that, because I'm kind of down with that. I like. Let's get right. Let's just jump right in instead of dancing around it. Last night on Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw was a clip show. Best moments of the year. Let's call it what it is. It was a clip show. It's what it was. The main attraction, I guess, for Raw was the announcement that Cody Rhodes was going to speak. They had a pre-tape interview set up with him where he talked about a few things, how his rehab was going, so on and so forth. But there's one line that stood out and has dug its talons into wrestling fans' brains here. I'm going to read this one out verbatim for y'all. Quote, "There is one thing that I came back for specifically. Again, a torn pec couldn't stop me. I couldn't name anything that could stop me. It has to be done. It needs to be done, and I want it to get done." And he said it himself. He said, I'm going to be a little vague about it, but this is the thing. There's one thing that I came back for specifically. Now, go back to his first promo on Raw after WrestleMania. And remember his promo. Remember everything that was set up. It was set up there. He came back. He was there and he was saying, "I'm going to do what my dad couldn't do. I came in here to have. I came back here to do the one thing my dad wasn't able to do, and that is to become WWE champion. That's all that's missing. I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna do it for my pa." And he set that out very clearly. Had his fantastic matches, his trios of matches with Seth, of course, the torn pec business and all of that. Now he's been out for a while. Now look, let's not be stupid. He's coming back for Royal Rumble, right? Let's be real here. Let's get this out of the way. This is obviously the target. And now, for some reason, everyone's reacting to this as like, "Oh my God, Cody's coming for the title." And this has been the thing since he's come back. This is the whole story of his comeback. This is why I've been saying from the moment he got that entrance at WrestleMania, I was like, there's the guy that's going to dethrone Roman. Because I still don't see who else is going to do it. And I don't know why it's a matter of debate amongst WWE fans. It just makes so much sense that Cody is the guy who is going to take it away because he has this story that he set up. And it doesn't matter that he's been gone for months. It doesn't matter because he's going to come back and he's going to work towards it. And I think he's the guy who should be. There is legitimately not a bigger superstar that they have on that roster that could do it. Since Papa H, as he's affectionately referred to, has taken over, I may have created a soft spot in my heart for Seth Rollins because Seth is 100% a Triple H guy, right? Like, we know this. This is, it's common knowledge at this point. So Seth might be very well positioned to yank the belt off of Roman. Plus, you've got the Shield stuff. Haven't they recently been doing Didn't they reference recently on social media about the Shield's anniversary of something, and without putting too much emphasis on Dean Ambrose, right? I don't remember. I could be mistaken though. We could chalk that up to just like me paying half attention to that. And Seth has been having some fantastic crowd reactions to what he's been doing. People are singing along to his song. Like, I know technically he is supposed to be a heel, but he has clearly been baby-faced by the WWE universe. He could be the guy, and he is very, very, very beloved by WWE fans everywhere. He could be the guy to dethrone Roman, and that would be a huge feather in his cap. But I can promise you that Cody Rhodes did not go back to WWE to be a mid-carder. He didn't pack up his things to head back to he didn't pack up his things and leave everything behind to go into WWE and be relegated to feuds with Austin Theory. Cody wants to work the big leagues. He wants to work the big time. He wants to have his name in the lights. This is the story of Cody Rhodes. Undeniable, undesirable to undeniable, right? That's the thing. That's not just a gimmick. It's a shoot, brother. That's something that he really believes in. He wants to prove that he was able to overcome all of the misconceptions and the perceptions that people had about him to come to a place now where he can no longer be denied as a top guy. And when Cody comes back, he's going to get a huge reaction. I know that there's a rumor going around that they might slate him into another match with Seth Rollins, which frankly would be a mistake. But you have him come back, you have him do a match or two, get him warmed up for WrestleMania. Have him win the Rumble. Have him win the Rumble and have him beat Roman at WrestleMania. WrestleMania is 2 nights anyway, right? It's 2 nights. So you can have your Rock match on the other night. And it's wild to me. Again, it's stuff like this that just sometimes blows my mind, and I'm not going to lie. Where I see, people commenting is like, well, what if The Rock won the titles? You're not putting the Universal title on The Rock. You're not bringing the Rock back to WWE to have him have a part-time schedule. Well, I mean, you could argue, right, that maybe the Black Adam situation with his movie career maybe he needs a cooling off period within Hollywood. I don't want to say that people have soured on him. We might be going a little too far, and I'm not that invested in in Hollywood insider talk. But I could be fair to say that he might need a cooling off period, and maybe he's like, well, look, I'm gonna open up my calendar. I could work a couple of dates throughout the year. If you want to make me your champion, that's fine. But that would be such a huge mistake. It's crazy. And it's crazy how many people want this match. We're saying it in the chat. It's like Roman and Cody would be sufficient. I mean, that is your WrestleMania main event there. But as I've mentioned before on this very podcast, WrestleMania is not about the matches. It's not about the wrestling. It's not even what even goes on really throughout the year. It's about the spectacle. It's about the show. That's what it's really about, and getting the casuals, those mythical casuals, to tune in. That's what WrestleMania has turned into. It's an extravaganza, right? It's like Vince would call it, the biggest show in all of entertainment. Not sports entertainment, not music, not sports, not in all entertainment. before it became the most stupendous 2 nights and whatever. But that's the thing. And I've got this thing in the back of my brain right now, and it's I'm gonna let the Royal Rumble settle in. We're gonna do that. Once we hit the road to WrestleMania, once things become really, really clear as to what we're going to be doing moving forward with what the road to WrestleMania really starts to look like, because apparently, The Rock is not secured and so on. I have there's an article brewing in my brain right now in regards to who is WWE's biggest star. And this is brewing. It's an idea I have in the back of my head, but in my opinion, and I will elaborate further down the road in article form, I would say that WWE's biggest star right now is nostalgia. And WWE is not concerned about building stars today. It is concerned about building stars for tomorrow, so that when they have the new crop of people coming in, they have Hall of Famers, part-timers that they can call back to and bring in and convince everyone that they were, unstoppable forces of nature during their runs in WWE, right? And I think one of the most glaring, one of the most glaring examples of this is Edge, who is, don't get me wrong, Edge is a fantastic pro wrestler. I think he was well positioned for the time to be in the position he ended up in. Very charismatic, a solid worker. But I don't think anyone remembers Edge's run as anything Hall of Fame worthy. And I'm talking, how much did Edge draw in his day? How much of a needle mover was he? No, there wasn't any of that. Wasn't any of that going on. But yet, and how many legendary matches, matches that he's had in WWE that you're like, yeah, Edge has this series of truly extraordinary matches. And I'm talking, I know what you all thought of. I know what y'all went to. You're like, TLC, Warren. Yeah, he wasn't alone in this. So they will go back, they being WWE, and will put on a pedestal whoever they need to pass them off as any type of legend that they want, any type of legend that they need. They're going to do this down the road regardless. Whether it be Roman, whether it be Kevin Owens, whether it be Sami Zayn. These people are all going to be the nostalgia acts that are going to carry the company. Because I really believe that WWE's biggest star is nostalgia for the past. That is how they maintain viewers. That's how they keep them captive. The idea of The Rock at WrestleMania, John Cena on the last SmackDown of the year. And John Cena, by the way, legitimate Hall of Famer, legitimate legend of the business. The guy, even to this day, still sells out arenas. They sold out the arena once it was announced that he was showing up. So that is a true to form legend. Do not get me wrong. Stone Cold Steve Austin, legitimate business mover, was the top guy of the company, just turned everything up on its head back in the day. Unquestionably the top guy. Same thing with Dwayne. Edge? Randy Orton? But these are the guys that they're going to turn to. And they're going to, these are the guys that in 10 years, they're going to be bringing out for the 35th anniversary of Raw. And we're going to have all of our legends come out. And it's going to be these guys. And then people are going to go, oh, one more run, Randy Orton. WWE fans are nostalgic for the product they loved, not for the product that exists today. And that's an article that I'm working on. That's something that's burrowing in my brain here. And I think it's going to be very topical. It might become very topical after the Royal Rumble. After whether or not Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, shows up or not. I'm excited to see how this turns out. One last quick note before we get into Wrestle Kingdom proper. How about that? There's been a lot of talk about AEW getting into house shows, right? That's been going around a little bit. I saw some discussions. I even got involved in some discussions online regarding whether or not AEW should do it, and it popped back today because Jim Ross on his Grillin' It with JR. What does he call it? Grillin' the JR's Grillin' JR. That's the name of it. Grilling JR. Jim Ross's Grilling JR podcast, which is a member of the Conradverse. He said that he added a little more to that discussion here, saying that he believes AEW will be jumping into live events, house shows in 2023, noting that Jeff Jarrett is expected to play a big role in making it happen. Folks, they didn't hire Jeff Jarrett to be VP of live events by accident. And I talked about this months ago when he got hired, if you're paying attention. But the discussion is still there. This is what JR had to say. I got this quote off of the Wrestle Purists website. Quote, I believe in 2023 that AEW will be in the house show live event business to some degree. I just think it's an opportunity that can be capitalized upon if AEW is strategic in their planning. I think that's what Jeff Jarrett's going to work on. Now, there's a lot of people who got, well, I mean, look, it's Twitter, it's online, and, you know, I was going to say people got unreasonably upset at this, and I don't understand, but I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. You know, most things get people unreasonably upset on Twitter, if we're being honest with each other. But because they're like, AEW absolutely should not do this. I hate it, and I won't go see a show, and I hate it if they do this. I'm like, but what if it makes sense? What if it all makes sense? Because the idea of house shows, of live events outside of your TV tapings, it makes sense, right? If we go back historically, right? You go back historically, before the advent of the Monday Night Wars specifically, TV would exist to send people to buy a ticket, right? That's why Hulk Hogan wouldn't wrestle on Superstars on Saturday mornings, right? Because if you wanted to see Hulk Hogan wrestle, you'd have to buy the pay-per-view or buy a ticket when WWE comes to your hometown. Or watch Saturday night's main event once every quarter, okay? Did I get it all out of the way? Am I missing something? Am I missing something? I don't think so. So that, so basically that's what your house shows were. And the house shows, well, they'd often tape stuff for TV, so on and so forth. Look. Then when live TV started happening and TV tapings for Raw, for Nitro happened, the objective of the house show changed, where it's like, come see the stars that you see on Monday nights, right in your hometown, live in your face. And the idea there was not necessarily for people to buy tickets for that. The idea was still buy tickets to watch the pay-per-view, but also come buy a ticket to watch, the superstars of World Championship Wrestling in your hometown. And the benefits, and these days, again, historically, house show attendance is down because people would wrestling fans, it appears in general, preferred to buy tickets for a taping or a pay-per-view than a house show. And this was specifically demonstrated by WWE's house show business. I mean, that's the only metric we really had to go by because there was no competition. But WWE's live events metrics were all on the way down right up to the pandemic. And the house show business was just running at a loss, essentially, was being made up for in other departments, but still live events were running down. Now, why the idea here is why would you run this? Why would you continue running live shows if you're losing money, right? Again, first of all, let's be clear. Whatever revenue WWE was losing out of doing live shows, they were making it up for in other departments. So it wasn't such a significant loss to their bottom line. It's just when you'd look at the revenue streams, you'd be like, why are they still doing this if they're not making any money, kind of thing. It just like boggles your mind. But then when you look at the bigger picture, you're like, they're not losing anything. But so what is the logic behind this, right? Well, I can only see other types of benefits for this. And I'm not inventing anything. These are things that have been discussed over and over and over again, but I think they bear being pointed out here now that the house show discussion is back and whether we should do it or not. The first thing that house shows do is that it allows talent to tighten up for television. It allows them to go out there, try some stuff out, wrestle with their locker room people, and get better, get more TV ready. And I think this is the crucial number one thing. It allows them to build chemistry with people on the roster. Because I've got people saying, Warren, they can hit the indies if they want. Not everyone wants to hit the indies. I think one of the things you hear the most is Anna Jay should hit the indies and get some reps there. Well, maybe she doesn't want to do the independent circuit because that's a whole other mindset. That's something else. And don't assume that anyone who works for AEW is welcomed with open arms on the independent circuit. The promoters might be happy to be like, yeah, let's get an AEW name in here. And I'm sure, wrestling, it's such a small community, there's a lot of friends, so on and so on. There's certainly a large contingent of wrestlers who are happy to, let's say, have Evil Uno come work a show, or Orange Cassidy or whatever, because these are people who grew on the indies, right? Came up on the indies. Let's say Anna Jay goes out. What kind of reception does she get? Oh, the big AEW star coming to sell tickets in our little bum town, And is that the impression you also want to give, that she's going to go work the indies to improve? But you're featuring her every week on TV, or practically every week, and she's in one of the biggest stables in the company. Is she green? All these things are not necessarily good things. Perception-wise aren't great. I understand the argument. I really do. And it makes sense to me to a degree. But it makes sense where you'd say, they can just hit the indies. But maybe you don't want that. And maybe you just, now that there's producers in AEW, now that there's coaches, people showing them how to do things a certain way. You go out on the indies and it's the Wild West. There's no one producing matches over there where it's like, well, you have to hit the spot here and make sure you look at make sure that you look at the hard cam and this is going to be happening over here. There's none of that. Wrestlers come up with their shit themselves, and then they all come together with all the notions that they learned in whatever schools that they went to. So I can understand the idea of wanting to run house shows and have everything be more streamlined, right? Plus, instead of wrestling, curtain jerker number 6 over at a Beyond show. Just throwing that out there. Well, you're working with people that you will continue to work with within your promotion. I think that makes sense. It allows for chemistry. Everyone tightens up their game for television. So there's less of these, less possibilities for these botch accounts to go to lose their shit over a GIF. You know what I mean? talent, and Tony Khan can throw things out there to test them on TV. Tony Khan is a guy who pays attention to his audience. He pays attention to the audience. He'll let things work out for a couple of weeks, see how people are reacting about it. And if it's good, well, he's going to bring it up. He's going to bump it up a little bit, kind of like what he did with Athena, what he had to do inevitably with Jamie Hayter, what he did with Wardlow at the same time. Like, all things where it's like, okay, let's keep going. Let's see how this is going. So if you bring these people out and at house shows, people are popping mad for these folks. Well, you're like, okay, I got something here. You put two people in a match together and they have this great chemistry and you're like, maybe there's a feud we could have here. And it's a cheaper price point. At least it should be a cheaper price point for people to come watch a live event as opposed to heading to a TV taping. At least, like I said, it should be. When the WWE came to my hometown a few months ago during the summer, I mean, they had floor tickets at $800. I'm like, this is absurd. It's ridiculous. You know, I was thinking, you know what? If I'm able to get maybe a nosebleed, you know, one in the higher up, like at $25, I'll go. There's no way I'm paying $70, $80, $100 for a WWE live event. You know what I mean? So you go to smaller venues. You don't run the basketball arenas. You don't run the maybe the college ball venues. Smaller places, a little more intimate. Maybe 1,000, 2,000 people. Run those. Pack it up with some diehard fans and do it. I think it'd be a very good. I think it would be very good to get more fans out there to watch the shows. As long as your tickets are not AEW Dynamite prices, I think it's fine. I only see, like, ultimately, as far as a presentation, production aspect, you know, a fostering of talent point of view, there's no bad reason to run house shows. Cheaper price points for fans allows them maybe to spend a little more on merch. You know, like there's money-making opportunities there as well. But the big thing here, and JR said it twice, and I agree with him, if AEW is ready to do it, if they can do it, I think that's what I said in my tweet, and a lot of people aren't able to read on Twitter, so, you know, they completely misunderstood what I was saying. They thought I was saying that AEW has to do house shows. I was saying, no, if AEW can, if they can, meaning that if they can take the gamble, take a loss, you know, because they're not going to make money out the gate with this. Take a loss. If they can do it, I think they should invest in it because it is good for talent and it'll clean up a lot of the things, a lot of the problems that a lot of people have running who watch Dynamite on a weekly basis because the talent never really have other opportunities to work the kinks out, to wrestle in front of crowds because they can only do it in front of television, and that's super crucial and it's high pressure. I'm not saying they should be shielded from high pressure situations, but sometimes, you know, maybe there's some things that you hold back, right? You hold back on because you can't quite do it on TV, but you could try it out on a house show without any problems, right? Like, look at what WWE's doing right now. They got Bray Wyatt doing the house show loop, right? I can't believe Bray Wyatt's first match back in WWE was on a house show that no one will see. Gadzooks. And I'm like, this is the most logical thing. The guy hasn't wrestled since April 2021. Are you telling me you're going to put him in a match at Royal Rumble out the gate without any warm up, any reps, nothing to get the rust out? Are you kidding me? That's what the house shows also are for. And at the same time, you know, you've got you have the You have the idea like we're talking about in the chat here in regards to, work rate injuries. Of course, that's always what you don't have to go as hard though. Like, book the Lucha Brothers, say, on your house show tour of the Midwest, but you go up to Phoenix and you go up to Penta. You bring Alex Abrahantes with you to make sure that, there's nothing lost in translation. You tell them, guys, cool it. Take it a few steps back. Don't kill yourselves. There's no TV around. And they'll be like, okie dokie, right? You just tell everyone to just rein it in. The idea isn't to go put on the spectacle. It's not PWG. It's, bumfuck Iowa. Let's just do it. And everyone will be happy to see us, and we'll take pictures with the fans, and we'll do Zero Miedo and all that shit. And everyone will be happy. We'll turn the lights out, when the House of Black come out, now when Warren's going to go, Sabu! And then the lights come out and it's not going to be Sabu, and Warren's going to go, boo! And that's, that's the thing. That's what you want out of a house show. It's these feel-good moments. So, again, I see a lot of good out of this. But if AEW can handle it, and they are most assuredly leading into it, because Jeff Jarrett is a member of the office and he's been brought in to do that. Like, there's no way they're not doing it. There's no way they're not seriously considering doing it, right? And there's a good point also being brought up in the chat in regards to the lighter schedule being something that turned on a lot of people to join AEW, right? Much lighter schedule, so on and so forth. And that's something I can agree with. And that's a hurdle. See, this is part of if AEW can do it. Because let's be honest. Let's be completely honest with each other. If the house shows are headlined by Anna Jay and Sky Blue and Captain Dean, and QT Marshall and his crew, there's nothing that's drawing you to that show. You need at the very least, you need an Orange Cassidy in there to get people to come sing along with Jade. You want a John Moxley, you want the Bucks at some point. You're going to need some of the star talent to pull it off. Well, maybe the star talent don't have this contractually, and this has to be renegotiated. Again, like I said, if AEW can do it, they should, because there are many more benefits to doing it for talent, for the show. Now, the whole business aspect of it, there's so many things that we're not privy to, including, clauses in contracts and so on and so forth. But there are very little negatives for the company to do house shows. So little. And the biggest con out of it all is losing money. And I think, look, there's no one in that head office that are entirely stupid and don't have a brain for business, right? They know, they definitely see the WWE's house show numbers, and they're like, look, if WWE can't pull this off, how are we going to make a buck on this? If they can do it, and they've been doing this for 40 years, and they can't and it's a loss leader for not a loss leader, but a loss, just a plain old loss for them. How are we going to do this? And that's probably what they're figuring out, and that's why they have Jeff Jarrett to do it. To be continued. I was very excited to do the show today because I'm like, we're opening the show with a kick-ass preview of a great Japanese show, and we're going to close it up with a kick-ass preview of a kick-ass Japanese show. I'm excited. Puro is back, baby. Joshi is back, baby. And I forgot to mention this at the Stardom review, but I'm going to say it right now. Preview. It wasn't a review. It hasn't happened yet. I hope more and more people really do tune in and watch Joshi, get into it, because it is the only way to make people understand that whatever we're doing with women's wrestling in North America ain't it. North America is not the best place to watch women's professional wrestling. It is Japan. It is still Japan. It continues to be Japan because it's the only place that truly treats them like athletes. It really is. So I'm excited for this. Just like I'm excited for Wrestle Kingdom 16, taking place on January 4th, 2023, in a little place called the Tokyo Dome, formerly known as the Egg Dome, in Tokyo, Japan. Restrictions are not as heavy anymore, right? Not as there will be certain noise. Did you all read this? Did you see this? The whole statement on noise in the Tokyo Dome. Let me try to see if I can't find this for a second here. Give me a quick second. I just thought of it right now and I'm like, hang on a second. I think this is its special gift. No, that's not it. The special gift is they're giving people shit that they're just going to throw away. Oh, there we go. The Tokyo Dome's new cheering guidelines. Okay. I'm just going to read these because it's really funny. Because it's funny. New Japanese event guidelines at a glance. This is off the New Japan NJPW1972.com. Chants for wrestlers, boos, cheers at a typical length are allowed at full capacity. Call and response, cheering catchphrases such as kaze ni nare, counting with the referee, is allowed at full capacity. However, lengthy chanting or singing, such as for the entire duration of an entrance, is not allowed. The Tokyo Dome will feature special sections for fans who want to show extra support. Masks continue to be required. Guidelines to be first implemented on January 4th. Events moving forward, TBD, and subject to judgment from municipalities and venues. So you can cheer, provided it's not too long. Like if you're singing, if you know the lyrics to Kaze ni Nare, you just can't go for it. You can't. You can't. Stick to what Suzuki wants you to do, which is, Kaze ni Nare. But you cannot. You can't keep going and say, I have to be a lonely warrior tonight. You can't do that. You can't. Nope. That's too much. You get ejected. Hit the bricks. President Obari is gonna be there, and he's gonna be like, tap you on the shoulder, and he's gonna put you in an arm bar. And he's going to escort you out if you sing along too much. Let's be honest. What it all boils down to is that people can cheer. And honestly, that's all that matters, because I was so worried. I was kind of bummed, actually, to think that Wrestle Kingdom this year, especially with that one match that we're going to talk about, would be devoid of any crowd noise. I thought that was insane. Like I was like, this is going to take me out of it so hard. I'm just happy that the Japanese crowd will be able to react. It's good news because there's a lot of good stuff on the card. I think it's a pretty good Wrestle Kingdom card. I think it's better than the ones we've been having over the past 2 years. Not necessarily upset that they're back to one night. as opposed to 2. I know they're doing another one in Yokohama like 2 weeks later, Wrestle Kingdom Night 2, but come on now, all right? You know what I'm talking about. Let's start talking about this on the pre-show really quickly. We've got Rohei Oiwa versus Oleg Boltin. Oleg Boltin, that was the amateur wrestler that Yuji Nagata, I think, is really, really high on. Big dude, big, strong, heavyweight dude. And you kind of have the impression that probably the office has taken a shine to him. I'm excited to see what happens here. Then we'll have the New Japan Ranbo, of course, which will determine who will challenge for the provisional King of Pro Wrestling 2023 Championship at New Year Dash, which is the next day. We got to talk about this for a second, though. The tradition of New Year's Dash being back on the next day is dope as hell. I liked me some New Year's Dash. The fun thing about New Year's Dash is that it always feels like a reset. It always feels like this is how we're kicking off the year. In with the new, out with the old, and old, and in with the newish, and out with the older. And I'm excited for that. I'm legitimately excited for the return of New Year's Dash. Makes a lot of sense. And of course, that card is a surprise right up until the last minute. Like, nothing's going to be announced ahead of time because they're not spoiling jack shit from Wrestle Kingdom. And I think a lot of what's going to happen on New Year's Dash is going to set up the Yokohama Wrestle Kingdom show. So I'm excited to see that. But that's what I was talking about. This is what I was talking about last week when I was doing my naughty and nice list, and we're talking about New Japan, feeling like New Japan again. This is exactly what I feel. This is exactly it. This is a very good example right here of what Nuge should feel like. So I'm glad this is coming back around here. We have the Antonio Inoki, now that we're on the main card now, the Antonio Inoki Memorial 6-man tag team match. Yuji Nagata, Satoshi Kojima, and Togi Makabe will be taking on Tatsumi Fujinami, Minoru Suzuki, and Tiger Mask. And this is like I mentioned, Inoki's memorial match. This is the Wrestle Kingdom that is also coincidentally wrapping up the 50th anniversary of New Japan, where it was reported that Inoki was supposed to play a part in the celebrations this year. Obviously, this is not going to be the case, but we are going to have this match here. Nagata and Fujinami, unless I'm mistaken, I believe are the two who have any type of real connection to Inoki. Like Fujinami is like he's a direct pupil, right? Trainee for Inoki, and Nagata worked for Inoki and stood by him quite a bit. So these are the only two really who have any kind of connection here. I wouldn't be surprised if Fujinami gets the pin here. But yeah, I mean, this is it's going to be the memorial match from and a lot of the which is going to involve the New Japan dads here, with Minoru Suzuki in here starting to flail around with the New Japan dads, which is something you don't see very often. And Suzuki, look here, quick aside, I watched the final Suzuki-gun match that occurred on the 23rd of December on the Road 2 show, and I tell you, let me tell you, I think it was a lovely moment for a stable that or a faction, as we say in Japan, that didn't have the gumption that it once had. Like, we're a far cry from Noah invading Suzuki-gun, right? When it felt like it was the army coming in and taking shit over. And like, even over the past few years, 2, 3, 4 years, Suzuki-gun has felt more of a, babyface's leaning heel than anything else. People ended up just loving Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr. and then Dangerous Tekkers and Despe. Like, they weren't just the scumbags anymore. They were the lovable scumbags, and I like that about them, right? But I think we were at a moment in time where Suzuki-gun had worn out its welcome, and I think it's fine to have the name Suzuki-gun in the stable, this faction, be retired properly and have a proper send-off. I think it's a good show of respect because Suzuki-gun did a lot for New Japan. And Minoru Suzuki as well, carrying all of this. And maybe he was at a point where it's like, look, you guys never booked me. I go to the US and I charge thousands of dollars and, I wrestle the same match all the time and, and I'm super over. I mean, I might just do that for a while because Minoru Suzuki he wasn't even in the G1 this year. Wasn't even in the G1 last year either. So, it's like, maybe this was just time. Maybe, and before, I think it was time before we started having conversations about it's time to wrap this up. You know what I mean? Because there wasn't any discourse around we should wrap up Suzuki-gun. But now that it's happening, you're like, you know what? I think this is a good moment to do it. I don't see anything else they could have possibly done with it. I thought the send-off was lovely. Everyone taking their turns, talking. Even Lance Archer saying that this was some of his favorite stuff that he's done in his entire career was with Suzuki and the rest of the crew. Izuka hobbling down, the deranged madman to reclaim his iron fingers, his iron glove, and then disappear into the ether. Okay. It's like whatever floats your boat, pal. I thought that was a nice little way to wrap things up. Where was Miho Abe though? That's what I want to know. I'm talking about it with Kristen. Kristen was like, well, maybe she was busy, and I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. But she was also part of Suzuki-gun, and I know the guys liked her because it's been obvious. They did the whole birthday thing for a couple of, was it last year or something like that? A few months ago, earlier this year, I can't quite remember. They did a whole birthday thing for her in the ring. All the guys were, razzing on her, and it was funny. It was cool and sweet. A whole bunch of things at the same time, She wasn't there. So I thought that. But hey, you know what? Don't let this fall on any. Let me say that again. Do not underplay the fact that it was Zack Sabre Jr. who pinned Minoru Suzuki in the ring to get the win. That is a significant gesture in this context. After everyone, I liked it. It's like, honestly, it wasn't the greatest work rate match of all time. But it's another example why, in some circumstances, rating scales don't work. They don't matter. Because this match was perfectly built. It was entertaining, and there was a lot of emotion into it. Because at some point, Suzuki starts beating up it's an 8-man tag, right? And starts beating up his own tag team because he's like, his own partners, because he's like, you guys aren't cutting it. We're getting the shit beat out of each other. So what does that do? Everyone, all 7 of the other guys, they turn on him. They're like, no, we're not. So they each take turns to beat up Senpai, which was, as, sweet and honorable in the context as well, and very emotional. And Zack Sabre Jr. got a Michinoku driver, a Zack driver, and covered him to win it for his team. I mean, I remember years ago when I was doing a lot more New Japan content with Smart to Death Boys and Big Paws on a Pup. We'd often talk about just hand a Suzuki-gun over to Zack Sabre Jr., call it Sabre-gun, right? Just, this is where we're at right now. Maybe this will be the next. I think this would be the perfect thing for a New Year's Dash resolution, right? I think this would rule. Anyway. Yeah, you'll see which match I'm excited for. Don't worry. We're getting there. Then we have an IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship match. Catch-to-to. TJ Perkins and Francesco Akira, the champions, will be defending against Leo Rush, the team of Leo Rush, and Yo. In case you missed my shorthand review of the Super Junior Tag League this year, it was very good, and it was miles above World Tag League this year. I thought everyone worked really hard, and the matches were none of them were really boring, and a lot of them were quite good to excellent. And one of the reasons that the tournament was so good was because of these two teams right here. Catch-to-to have been just phenomenal as a tag team, thrown together within a year, are just absolutely fantastic, and no one can say the opposite. And this, again, is despite whatever you think about TJP. This team is great. And Leo Rush and Yo, a pairing which I sort of went, okay. Geez, they really want to shoehorn Leo Rush into this. Well, it feels a lot more natural and organic than it did because these two guys work fantastically well together. And on top of that, Leo Rush is motivated. Leo Rush wants this New Japan run to succeed. He wants it to go. He wants it to work out. So he's ready to go. And it's proven, he's shown it all throughout the tournament with Yo. They make a great team. These four guys put on fantastic matches. I 100% believe this is a sneaky match of the night that we have right here. This is a show stealer waiting to happen. Second from the top. I sincerely believe it. Unless they're specifically told, don't steal the show because we want these two other guys to do it. You know which ones. This one will tear the house down. So I'm excited for this. I think Leo, I think they win the titles here. I think they defeat TJP and Akira to get the titles. Because I also feel like New Japan is really behind this pairing, and they really like Leo Rush. And here's something else to add on to the pile. That is my bewilderment in regards to Show's career. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here are the cliff notes, because I occasionally talk about this. But the quick recap is, when Sho and Yo were Roppongi 3K, there was a point where everyone was super saturated. We were done with them. And they were like, Sho's the star. Split these guys up. Sho had this fantastic run with fighting heavyweights in the New Japan Cup 2 years ago at this point. Had some great matches. And I'm talking great matches with Shingo Takagi. I was drawing a blank, excuse me. Just fantastic stuff. And everyone's on the edge of their seat and they're going, there's our star. Let's push him. Push this guy to the moon. Give him. And then he gets thrown into the House of Torture stuff as their junior, right? And he's just completely lost everything that made Sho exciting, that made him fun. Just completely lost it. Whereas we were all going, well, what is Yo going to do? And look at where we're at here. Yo's on fucking Mother's on fucking Wrestle Kingdom this year. And Show's nowhere to be found. Where is Show? Nowhere. And I'm here, sitting here going, yeah, career resurgence for Yo Short's another junior tag team, but he feels fresh with Lio Rush. This is great for him. When a couple of years ago, anyone with a pair of eyeballs would be saying, Show is going to be the guy. Show's the guy. What the fuck is going on? Like, this is booking. This is all on Gato. But the fact that Show is not a bigger star at this point removed stinks and is proof that the House of Torture is cancer. IWGP Women's Championship. First ever champion Kairi Sane is going to be taking on Tam Nakano. And as you all know by now, there is a story around this that is overshadowing a lot of what this match is, and it with reason. And I think it's it's legitimate. Don't get me wrong. I think it's fine. But let's focus on this match here first and foremost. Kairi, Tam Nakano. This should 100% rule. Kairi has had a great series of matches since she returned to Stardom. She's been a little, choosing her matches. She's a part-timer, which was part of, the feud that she had with Mayu leading into the inaugural IWGP Women's Championship match. She and her put on one of the best matches of the year, in your boy's opinion. And now she's coming in after Tom, who is someone who also wants to stand apart from within the, the Stardom royalty. She needs this match as well. She wants the fact that it's her who is accompanying Kairi on this first historic match, this first IWGP women's match in a New Japan Wrestle Kingdom environment. That is huge news. It's a tremendous deal. Tom can go. She's not one of the youngest on the roster, but she's fantastic because she understands psychology and she understands how to be brutal. Kairi's great and she's shown it. She's proved it. However people perceive her still in WWE, we're miles above. So this should be very good. These are two pros, world-class pros right here who are going to put on a world-class match because their target, do not forget the target of this for New Japan, is to get a foothold internationally so that people will get interested in this, in their title, so that they feel, and they're right, Bushiroad in general, that there is a lack of quality women's wrestling in North America, and they're not wrong. I told you before when we started this up here, when we started talking about it, there is no other place in the world that does women's wrestling better than in Japan. You can pull out all the arguments you want. You're not going to sway me. And I'm not saying that the women here in North America are not talented. Au contraire. This often falls into booking territory. How stories are presented, how much time the women are given, so on and so forth. That's a whole other story that we're not talking about today. But the women in Japan, they come off as athletes. They come off as pro wrestlers. And this is what we're going to get here. And I think Kairi retains. I don't think it'd make really much sense to do that. Especially when you consider Sasha Banks, Mercedes Varnado, Mercedes Moné. Again, can't wait to get some resolution on that. It's been reported that she's been in Japan for a few days now. As of last week, if I'm not mistaken. She's in Japan. She's supposed to show up at Wrestle Kingdom. And it's got a whole bunch of people excited, including myself. And And I'm not going to start taking victory laps just yet. Okay? I'm not going to start taking victory laps just yet. There's one guy who called it when it happened the second time. It's like, she's not coming back. But I'm not going to take a victory lap just yet. We're going to wait till it all happens. She's there in Japan, apparently right now. Kind of had us wondering, why is she there so early? Look, maybe they're getting their photo shoots out of the way. They're doing whatever video packages need to be done. They probably, look, she's on a per appearance deal, right? They got to make sure this works. You've all read the reports on the high how much Sasha Banks is how high Sasha's fee is for these appearances, right? You've no doubt heard the reports. I've talked about it as well. Even higher than what Chris Jericho was asking for his appearances at Wrestle Kingdom a few years ago. The comparisons between what New Japan is doing right now with Sasha and what they did with Chris Jericho are so similar. So incredibly similar. Jericho drew business for them. He drew business for them. They noted it. You can go back and check the financial reports, and the subscriber base for New Japan bumped when Chris Jericho was announced for Wrestle Kingdom and so on and so forth. This created more attention for New Japan, undoubtedly, unquestionably. So I'm pretty sure that on one end, they're expecting the same type of result, which I think is a fair assumption considering how popular Sasha is in North America with wrestling fans. I think it's entirely fair, and I think the strategy is similar, if not the same. Let's get a highly recognizable name from the North American market to come here and have a few dates with us that we can play with to generate interest in our product and hopefully clasp onto these subscribers, right? There's I've posted it online, and I'm gonna make it clear. I welcome the Sasha Banks crew with a K. I welcome them with open arms. January 4th at 3 a.m., sitting around wondering what the hell the New Japan dads are doing, wondering what the hell Satoshi Kojima is. I welcome them with open arms, and I don't want to sound sarcastic. I really am, because this is what needs to happen. I know this is one thing that no one should gatekeep on. This is important for New Japan. If Sasha is going to bring in new fans who are going to subscribe to New Japan and stay up at 3 a.m. to watch the shit, we need to make sure that they're well taken care of. There's no need to gatekeep here. Everyone has an entry point. Chris Jericho was an entry point for a lot of people in New Japan. We're not going to sit around here and go, well, I believe that, Sasha stands are, cancer. No, we're not doing that. We're absolutely not doing that. They are going to be welcomed. I welcome them arms wide open. So here we are. This is upcoming, and you know what's going to happen. Sasha Banks is going to show up after the match. There's not going to be any shenanigans. There's not going to be, because that's how it's done in Japan, right? They're going to do a post-match angle where Sasha is her new music's going to hit, and she's going to walk out. She's going to walk out from the top of the ramp all the way down, and she's going to stare at Kyrie, and she's going to point to the belt, and Kyrie's going to hold the belt over her head, and that's how it's done. Okay, but prepare yourselves if you've never watched a New Japan show before. This is how challenges happen because it's a sports-centric show. It's sports-centric presentation. So there's not going to be like weeks of storylines and a fucking contract signing. There's not going to be any of that. He's going to come into the ring. He's going to point to it. Kari's going to like, oh yeah, you want this, motherfucker? Let's go. We're going to set the date for, I would say, the Yokohama show. I think they do the Yokohama show, and I think Kairi loses the title. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about this once Wrestle Kingdom's done. I'm jumping the gun here. But ultimately, look, Sasha's going, if she shows up, and people are like, why haven't they advertised her yet? Because from everything we've gathered, everyone I've spoken to, every word I've read on the matter, her contract is up on December 31st at 11:59 p.m. She is free as a bird on January 1st, and she can't be announced for any bookings and wrestling, so on and so forth, until that time. So I still don't think New Japan should announce her. I think she should absolutely be a surprise. And also temper your expectations. I don't expect the Japanese crowd to know who Sasha is, or at least to the degree that we know her. I would be surprised. It's actually the opposite. If she gets a roaring pop, I'll be surprised. And I'll be like, okay, this is actually a good litmus test here. Because if we're doing this to get the North American audience interested in New Japan, but the Japanese audience are like, holy shit, it's Sasha Banks, and they pop huge, wow. Then we're in a bit of a win-win territory here. Then it makes the local fan base excited, and then the international fan base gets excited too. So everyone wins. Everyone wins. And frankly, it's a big test for New Japan too. Not for New Japan, excuse me, for Sasha as well. Right? She's because the thing right now is that, and I myself, right, I'm a big booster because I really believe you're never going to end up convincing me that what Sasha Banks is doing right now is a bad move. There's nothing bad in her deciding to go to bet on herself. Like, this is literally it. Bet on herself and try some other stuff out. Like, there's nothing that you can say that will convince me whether this was a good move or not. What will convince me as to whether this was a good move or not will be the business she will generate. That's the thing. And you know Sasha has this in the back of her head. Because for all of us here going, WWE don't know what they have with her. They've been misusing her. She's a star. She can do anything she wants. And I know, I'm in this group. That's fine. But for all of us clamoring that, this is the moment where she puts the money where her mouth is. This is where she has to turn up and people have to turn up. Otherwise, she will be proving a bunch of detractors wrong. She'll be proving her old boss wrong, that you are nothing without us. Now, I don't know what the KPIs are. I don't know what the targets are for internally at Bushiroad. I don't know what internally their targets are for a Sasha Banks return to be considered successful. But I can't imagine not even the slightest bump in business for Sasha Banks, right? If it's tremendous, if it's small, this is how we'll gauge as to the spread of what Sasha Banks is, right? At the same time, Sasha wants to wrestle she wants to wrestle in Japan. She's wanted to do it for years. She's a tape nerd. She's one of us. She watches old wrestling matches, and she's digging through this history of Stardom. She's going back to AJW, which she's probably done in the past regardless. And she's looking at old tape from Minami and Aja Kong and the whole 9 yards. She's looking through all of this. She's picking up stuff. She's making notes. She's like, I'm going to try this. We're going to be able to try that. Sasha is a super talented pro wrestler. And maybe for her, this is all she wants. Maybe ultimately, all she wants is like, look, I want to wrestle wherever the hell I want. And that's fair. You've got Jon Moxley doing that. Yeah, Chris Jericho doing that for a while as well. Why couldn't we extend this same type of situation to Sasha, to a bona fide pro wrestling star who just happens to be a woman, right? It's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Of course, there's rumors and talk of Sasha going to other places as well, but we don't want to get into that just yet because it gets people really madder than the New Japan stuff. Next, IWGP Tag Team Championship. FTR, current champions, will be facing the winners of World Tag League, Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. My sensibilities had picked up on it. I was like, follow your nose. Again, sometimes you just gotta listen to your boy Warren. Best D-list podcast with the A+ audience out there. Sometimes you gotta listen to me. Everyone, I myself was like, look, the match is FTR versus Aussie Open 2. That's the match for the gold. Once again, they've got another one in the holster. It's a match we saw at Royal Quest 2 this year, and it blew the roof off the joint. Let's do it again and in the dome. But I was like, is New Japan really going to book a title match with two teams of Gaijin wrestlers? That's what I was unsure about. And I was like, that would probably sway it towards Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. And sometimes you just got to listen to Warren. Sometimes you got to pick and choose. I get that. Like, there's moments you should not listen to me. But there's other moments where I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty confident about this. Look, honestly, the only bad match that FTR has had this year, and when I say bad, I mean not up to their standards, was against the Guns last week on Dynamite, which was fine, but nothing else. And I don't think a match with Goto and Yoshihashi is going to stink. Goto and Yoshihashi have gelled into a tag team, a proper one. I don't think this has been. I don't think this is something that. It's not just one of these tag teams that were thrown together willy-nilly. Probably was at first, but then they really turned it into something. And the crowd likes them, and they like, plucky underdog Yoshihashi. I absolutely, and here's the other thing. If it wasn't for the story that they started to tell at Ring of Honor at Final Battle, and even the week before that, if I'm not mistaken, when they lost to the Acclaimed, right? Them being FTR. If they hadn't started telling this story where FTR is probably a step behind, is probably losing its grip here on its titles, maybe they're in for a slump. If it wasn't for that story, I'd be like, yeah, there's I'd go 50-50 on it as to whether they hold on to the titles or not. But now, kind of feel like Goto and Yoshihashi are going to retain. Not retain, but win the titles. And FTR are going to go home and they're going to continue this tale where, you know what, things suck. Things are starting to suck. And again, and it's a good story. And look, they had all the gold, they had all the all this hardware, but it's like anything. The more, at some point, y'all have to drop the hardware. They all have to lose at some point, so we might as well be doing it now. And the AEW tag team titles, which are the titles that mean the most to them, right? As they said, because that's what they have to say. It's their home promotion. It's been elusive. They haven't quite been able to grab it. So, we'll see how things go, but this should be pretty good. Then we have the tournament final for the inaugural New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television Championship. Zack Sabre Jr. taking on the son of Strong Style, Ren Narita. I'm looking forward to this. I'm glad Zack has this spot on the show. I don't think there's any way he's winning. Well, at least logically, there should not be any way for Zack Sabre Jr. to win this match. If you do recall, when the TV championship was created, the New Japan Brass said, look, this is going to be a title to showcase new and upcoming talent. We know as well that the Bushiroad office wants to focus more on younger guys. A lot of the roster is getting older. They want younger, handsome guys who can get themselves over, push merch, have more of an extended career. That's what they want to do. And the world title, the TV title, was also to be, the matches were supposed to be put out for free on social media, on New Japan World. Following all that logic, it should be Ren Narita. And I think it really should, because Narita has become very good. And he's become very confident in this in-ring persona he's got for himself. I think this works. It has to be him. If it's Zack Sabre Jr., I'm going to be scratching my beard, wondering what happened, what kind of memos then were sent out from the office to change pace here. Zack Sabre Jr. doesn't need this title. He's a tournament guy, and what he needs is a proper run at the top, as champion or not. But he needs to be part of that group of guys up at the top. And I think they really like him for that. Never Openweight Championship. The most prestigious title in New Japan. The one that has all the fans, all the wrestling fans excited for. Because of, they couldn't believe the disrespect of Carl Anderson taking the title and running to WWE. What about the Never title? They should strip him. He's besmirching the good name of the Never Openweight title that over the past 2 or 3 years has been, so perfectly, aesthetically booked. It's crazy how everyone's interest in that sort of really died down when everything was revealed to be a work and everyone was in agreement with New Japan and WWE and so on and so on. Isn't it wild? Everyone got worked, got mad, and then when it turned out to be a work, well, they all shut up about it and okay, fuck this shit then, right? Look, if there's anyone to get mad about, anything to get mad about, if there is anything to get mad about in this circumstance, it's New Japan's booking. It's them deciding to put the title on Carl Anderson while he wasn't contracted, knowing full well he could get a call from the E at any given moment. And then he gets the call, and they're like, well, can we have you for a couple of dates? How do we do this? And I mean, they made the best out of a rotten situation here, because Carl Anderson could have been just like, yeah, screw this shit. And, meet up with Tama Tonga at a New Japan Strong taping. Just like hand it to him and say, here, fly that back. Kind of thing. And vacated it. But no. Everyone thought that this was going to be Hikuleo's big moment. It wasn't. Might be Tama Tonga, who's going to be trying to take the title away from Carl Anderson. Bright lights, Carl Anderson. You know why the lights are so bright for Carl Anderson when he's in WWE? Because the lights are brightest when you're lying flat on your back, taking a 3 count, which is what he does. Again, I no issues with the guy getting the payday. Milk the Fed for what they're worth. Get every dime. Squeeze every dime. But Carl Anderson and Hikuleo, a couple of weeks ago, when that finally came to pass, stunk. This was Carl Anderson, who was not interested, who couldn't give a fuck, wasn't bothered to put in any effort, and it stunk. Is this what he's going to do in the Dome? Look, his whole gimmick, his whole thing that he goes around to bright lights. Carl Anderson, right? Well, they can't be brighter than in the Tokyo Dome. We'll see if he lives up to it. We'll see if he can turn one out. As it stands right now, I'm not excited for this match. I'm excited for Tama Tonga to get the belt. I'm excited for something to happen with Tama Tonga because I think he has value. And if there are any WWE fans listening right now, I'm talking like WWE fans like in your, in the universe, right? Who don't. There's no working relationship with New Japan. There's no working relationship with New Japan. And I'll tell you why. Because if there was, they would be advertising this match. They would be talking about it on World Wrestling Entertainment Television. And they would be putting it over. Our guy, Carl Anderson, is going to be in New Japan for their biggest show of the year, Wrestle Kingdom, defending his title against Tama Tonga. They would be doing that. Oh, but Warren, they said 2 weeks ago, AJ Styles said that Carl Anderson was in Japan taking care of business. Sure, he's in Japan taking care of business. Just like Pat Patterson was in Rio de Janeiro winning the Intercontinental Championship after a tournament, right? That doesn't mean it doesn't mean shit. That's not a working relationship. Until I see the types of maneuvers and talent sharing that I see with AEW or with Impact Pro Wrestling, there is no working relationship with WWE. Okay? Are we good? Is that all right? We're going to have Keiji Muto's last New Japan match as he steps into a trios match with one of his apprentices or somebody, I don't know if you'd call him a pupil, a trainee. Keiji Muto, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Shota Umino. They'll be taking on the Los Ingobernables de Japón trio of Tetsuya Naito, Sanada, and Bushi. You remember when I was doing the crossover, the New Japan Stardom crossover show? And I was putting over hard how this was the Great Muda's last match, and how I didn't understand how it was higher on the card and the women were main eventing a show where the Great Muda was having his last match. And I told you, and I said, this is Great Muda's last match. We could still end up having Keiji Muto having his final match. And look at what we got here. I'm telling you, I'm batting 1,000 these days, guys and gals, non-binary pals. I don't know what to tell you. This will be fine. What I find interesting here is the trio of Muto, Tanahashi, and Umino, where it's legitimately three. It's three generations of New Japan, right? You have, Muto, the old guard, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the guy who's, who carried the company, who was, who represents, who's just starting to not represent the present anymore, and the future of the company, who's Shota Umino, who looks like Tanahashi, right? And you got Naito, Sonata, and Bushi. Look, I don't know if Naito's like, yeah, I'm working Muto's last match, or Jesus Christ, what the fuck are they doing with me? Because as an LIJ guy, this stinks. Nothing for Tetsuya Naito outside of doing a glorified Road 2 match. That's all you got? I'll give you one prediction. Shota Umino gets the pin on Bushi. And then the question then will be, will Keiji Muto shake anyone's hand? Because he doesn't give a fuck. Because he didn't do it to Kazuchika Okada at the crossover show. He just walked out. The right thing for him to do is to stand in the middle of that goddamn ring, grab Shota Umino's wrist, and raise it above his head. That's what he has to do. Because as spent I am on Keiji Muto and his Hulk Hogan-esque ways, he is still a tremendous name in Japan, in pro wrestling. Huge. And his endorsement on a guy like Shota Umino would be extremely meaningful. Much more meaningful than Mox for the Japanese and him. Umino got over huge with us in North America because of the Mox rub. And give him the Keiji Muto rub. He's the guy. It's the onset of the stroke, folks. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship will also be defended in a four-way match. Taiji Ishimori will be defending against El Desperado, Hiromu Takahashi, and Master Wato. My stance on multi-man matches for championship titles remains the same. I'm not a fan. As long as we do not fall into WWE-style tropes in four ways and stuff like that, let's get creative. I'm okay. Surprise me is what I'm trying to say. Kind of like what they did at Full Gear with Claudio and Jericho and Sammy and was it Wheeler? Who was the fourth guy? Danielson. What am I talking about? Yeah, let's do something creative here. I'm not excited for this, but the principal elements are way too exciting. The principal elements are way too exciting here. Now, there's one theme that seems to be going out throughout, this Wrestle Kingdom show, where a lot of the old guys, the old guard, aren't here. Or guys that you would expect to be here aren't necessarily there. Shingo Takagi, Taichi, Great Khan. It's not even necessarily an old guy, but bear with me here for a second. There's a lot of names that have been established over the past couple of years and even longer in some cases that aren't there. Or guys like Tetsuya Naito and Hiroshi Tanahashi, who are relegated to multi-man matches a bit out of nowhere. Now the thing here, so on the opposite is that you have maybe a feeling of refreshing things up here in this Wrestle Kingdom. I think this is the theme of Wrestle Kingdom, trying to freshen things up give us new directions with maybe some new faces. Ren Narita being on the card. The women, Kairi, Tom. You've got, Leo, Catch-22. Catch-22 maybe a little more familiar, but Leo still new there as well. You've got Tama Tonga, who's probably going to get another big singles title here. There's a lot of in with the old, in with the new, out with the old again. Kind of feels like we're ready to go down a new path, right? So bear with me. Why am I talking about this in the context here? Bear with me. What if Master Wato was the guy who's going to win the title? I mean, look. Outside of Robbie Eagles, who's been winning the junior heavyweight championship over the past 18 months to 2 years or so? It's any combination of Ishimori, Desperado, and Hiromu. I don't have a problem with any of those guys winning. Don't get me wrong. All I'm saying is, if the company is ready to go down a direction of fresh faces, new talent, maybe Wato's your guy here. Because he's changed his gimmick to be a little more aggressive, not as goofy. I think it's worked for him. He's stiffened up a little bit. I think he's been doing some good work. And he's been booked. He's been booked in a way that makes him look strong as well. Makes him look like the underdog, like the fourth guy you think about in this match. And I think they might use that to put him over and have him win the title. I could see that. Despe, Hiromu, look, the point is, this match will probably be great. They'll probably work around all of the problems I have with multi-person matches for titles, and we'll get to probably Master Wato as a champion. That'd be my guess. IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship match. This is the match I am most looking forward to. What are you going to do? Shoot me in the foot if you need to. I will still watch it. Will Ospreay, the champion, will be defending against Kenny Omega. This is the match to bring Western fans in. This is the match that everyone who wants to subscribe to New Japan World to watch Wrestle Kingdom is going to tune into. This is the one they want. Then this is the one that Bushiroad wants you to tune in to listen to. By the way, don't subscribe to New Japan World today. Not till the 1st anyway, because they don't do retroactive billing. They will bill you for the full month of December, and then will bill you on the 1st of January for the full month of January. So don't do that. Don't do that right now. Okay? If you are interested in the Wrestle Kingdom card, head to New Japan World and subscribe on the 1st, but not until the new year, for absolutely sure, because then you're just losing money, unless you have money to burn. But Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, look, this not only have they been sniping at each other for the better part of 2022, they've been exchanging tweets that turned into promos, that turned into this. Not only that gave us the path to this match, where Kenny Omega said, look, I left New Japan in your hands for you to be the top gaijin, and you're not up to snuff. And Will Ospreay's like, well, fuck you, basically. And this is the match here. So not only is this story coming all together, but we are going to get probably, quite assuredly, the very first match of the year candidate for 2023. There's no way. that this is not going to be an excellent pro wrestling match. And again, apologies for your sensitivities in regards to maybe Will Ospreay or even Kenny Omega. But objectively speaking, these are two of the greatest pro wrestlers on the planet right now. Like, we talk about world-class wrestlers. These guys are in a class apart. And you've even seen it on AEW recently with the way Kenny Omega's wrestling when he made his comeback before when he came back. Remember, before All Out and all that stuff happened, and they were doing the angle where he was wearing that compression suit and he was all taped up, and it was like, whoa, is Kenny Omega really in top shape? Everyone's like, oh, he's washed. He'll never wrestle like he can wrestle again. He's been wrestling like the Kenny Omega I've always known. And this is what we're getting. And this is what we're getting at Wrestle Kingdom without a shadow of a doubt. Plus, on top of that, we're getting Will Ospreay, who is in the peak of his career and does not seem to be slowing down. No one has had a better wrestling year than Will Ospreay. From top to bottom, big stages to US Indies. He has tore it up everywhere he's gone. He is going to be Wrestler of the Year for countless wrestling fans this year. And I understand it. I'm with them. I get it. The only thing that is keeping you, yes, you, right now from saying I am super stoked about this match are your own personal proclivities in regards to pro wrestling. That's all. And objectively speaking, this is going to be excellent. It is going to be grandiose. They're going to give this time. A lot of people are calling this the real main event, and I get it. In North America, I get it. This is the match that everyone wanted to see, and we're getting it this year. And you know what? We're not waiting 2 years from now. We're doing it while Kenny's healthy. We're doing it while Will is healthy, while both of them are having, look, Kenny's having a great year back and Will is having a banner year. Legendary year for Will Ospreay. We're talking about FTR and the year they had, legacy defining. What about 2022 for Will Ospreay? And it all of this ties into the overarching story that they're telling with Will Ospreay that they started to tell in the G1 finals this year. Do you recall? That they've been telling before, but that they re-emphasized this year. Will Ospreay, fantastic wrestler, wins titles, can't beat the big guys. Can't pull off his win over Kazuchika Okada. Okada always has his number. That was the thing with the G1 this year. He wanted to beat Okada clean as a slate. He's beat him before, but with outside interference. He's like, no, I want to do this by my own power. Told all of his United Empire guys to stay out of it. Still couldn't get the job done, and it pissed him off. And now he's facing Kenny Omega, a guy who he says, you can't live up to the shoes that you're supposed to fill. Don't you see this great story they're telling for Ospreay? Where Ospreay, despite the fact that he's having 5-star matches upon 5-star matches, that he's currently the IWGP US champion, despite the fact that he's been the Rev Pro British champion, despite all of his accolades, you've got Kazuchika Okada going, you can't do this. You've got Kenny Omega who says, you might be good, but you're not that good. This is all just fantastic storytelling, and it is for that reason that Kenny Omega is laying down and doing the job for Will Ospreay, clean as a sheet, Wrestle Kingdom this year. Absolutely. I'm excited for this match. Again, It's the one I'm most looking for. Because there's no way, it is inconceivable to me to not be excited. Again, outside of your own personal proclivities, your own interests in wrestling, that's the only thing that can block you from getting all in, no pun intended, in this match. Because we are witnessing two of the greatest who have ever done it going one-on-one with each other. Like, dream match, like a true to form dream match that is out there, that exists, is going to happen. And Will Ospreay wins, and he retains, and it's going to be glorious. Trying to take a note here. Last but not least, IWGP World Heavyweight Championship champion Jay White will be taking on Kazuchika Okada. I don't think there's any way this ends without the 50th year celebrations coming to a close with the passing of Antonio Inoki. I don't think there's any way this ends without Kazuchika Okada becoming the man once again, defeating Jay White for it. Jay White is leaning hard into the fact that he has a very good win-loss record over Okada. I think that's fine. And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of people previewing the show are like, oh, well, this match again. Oh, well. And yes, we've seen this match in this position a couple of times. Maybe not the freshest match in the world. A lot of people, I didn't realize so many people were still so down on Jay White. Like down on him. And I feel like 2022 has been the best year of his career, where au contraire, I feel like everything he's been doing has been different. He's upped his game so much. And I feel like a lot of the criticisms that people have are like, counter moves and so on, and rest holds and stalling. All of these criticisms were of a Jay White of maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Where I agree, where I would like, oh man, it's a rough one. But I haven't had a Jay White match this year where I was like, ugh, will we ever get through it? He's been doing some of the best work of his career in 2022. I honestly don't see it. I frankly, I do not see how Jay White is still considered to be like this slog, this guy who's like, oh, his matches are all the same, it's so boring. I feel like everything he has done to his game has been uplifted. I feel like 2022 has been a coming out year for him as far as his moveset, trying out new shit. Going back to the old standards, right? Being the shit heel that he is, but without leaning into it to a way where it drags the match energy down. I think we're past this. Maybe it's the juxtaposition with Omega and Ospreay where people are like a little harder on the main event. But this is going to deliver. Because you've got Kazuchika Okada, one of the greatest of all times in that ring as well. And they're going to work together to put on a fantastic match. I think people are... I think that there's a lot of folks who still have a very bad taste left in their mouth in regards to early Jay White work. Maybe knife pervert Jay White, right? And that still sticks with them. Because I get it. At that time, I completely get it. I was like, this guy here, but he is still one of the best heels in the business. He is the best North American heel, North American style heel, and he works in Japan. Because the way he works here in North America, people wouldn't know what to do with him. I think he's natural. I think he's great. He's a great, excellent heel in the ring, in his stories, his mannerisms, the way he interacts with the crowd. I love everything about Jay White. And I think he's done such a good job this year boosting up his game. I don't get it. I don't understand why people are so down on him. And I don't know why people are so down on this match. Outside, I can completely agree with the, well, it's not the freshest match in the world. I get that. But this is not bad. This is a far cry from a bad match. I think people are being unjustifiably very rough with it. Unjustifiably. Okada wins. I don't think there's any swerves. I think this is what happens. Okada wins. He gets the confetti. Rainmaker's back. Because, business sense, it makes sense. New Japan's coming out of the pandemic. More and more venues are opening up to full crowds now, right? As opposed to, because there were still many of them that were, that the venues weren't being used at full capacity. If you're going to have a full year at full capacity, might as well bring the draw. Put the draw at the top. Kazuchika Okada's a draw. Proven draw. Give him the title. Put him at the top of the card. Let him plow through the year. Let people pay to see him wrestle in the main event. That's just good business to me. I'm very excited for this. I'm excited for this show. I'm excited for some New Japan. I'm excited to get up at 3 a.m. and drink all the coffee. I'll probably be hanging out on the Discord listening to this. Join the Discord, MrWarrenHayes Discord. Link is in the channel. But we are going to wrap it up for the weekly wrestling inspection. And we are also going to wrap it up for this week's edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. Thank you all for joining me tonight. It was an excellent, excellent show. Thank you, Kristen Ashley, for joining me earlier in the evening to break down Dream Queendom, the Stardom show. Listen, there's a lot of wrestling going on, and it's really exciting. And January is always fun because you get the big Puro shows that are happening. Then we fall into Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season. It's a very effervescent time for pro wrestling fans. So I'm excited about it, and I hope you all are excited as well. Join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. If you haven't already liked the video, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the video. If you're not subscribing to the podcast feed, subscribe to the podcast feed. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating on Spotify. But most of all, don't leave me alone. Don't ever leave me alone. I want to see you back here next week. Besides, I'll be back on Thursday for the Dynamite review. Don't forget that. But the Mr. Warren Hayes Show will be back next week in some form or whatever. To talk more pro wrestling. So again, thank you all for coming out, for listening, and I'll see you next time.